Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, DFR proudly brings to you its best damn podcast in the world, the 12 ounce Curl Route Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Current. You can find me on Twitter at Aaron Current. You see the handle below. My co host, Kyle, is at DF Roundup, and my other co host, Seaflow, aka Corey, is a little behind the times. He's not quite on the Instagram yet, but we're gonna bring you a new show for beer drinking football fans, just people that just want to talk sports. We don't want to talk politics or celebrities or the Barbie movie or anything like that. We just want to talk some ball, and so we've been friends for a while, and I figured, hey, let's get this thing fired up. And Kyle, I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit. You kind of were the brain trust behind all this. If you'd like to take over from here.
Yeah, I can't really give myself all the credit. Aaron, I know you and I have known each other for a really long time. But just getting together with people who love football as much as I do and doing all of this underneath the DFR kind of brand, but separating itself out and putting it with, the 12 ounce Curl Route podcast, slamming beers and throwing curl routes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Bears fan, so I'm all about some curl routes, and the our second co-host, would it be third or second? Either way, our other co-host, not my son,
is your son.
Leave. My other co-host, Corey.
What's going on, guys?
We're live, guys. We're live. Our other co-host, Corey, if you'd like to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously, a Patriots fan, in case anyone couldn't guess.
As you can tell, I'm kind of a Patriot fan. Just love football. Me and Aaron have kind of been talking about doing something like this before. I recently met Kyle in person, actually, which was awesome. So I'm just excited to talk about football and give our perspective of the game over a couple cold ones.
Hey, yeah, that's what this is all about. Training camp started for a lot of teams this week, so we figure we should fire this up when the NFL teams fire their stuff up.
Exactly.
We had some news come in today. As a Bears fan, we re-signed Cole Kmet. As a Kyle, you're not representing anything, but as a Packers fan, your guy Aaron Rodgers took a bit of a pay cut today. Maybe we could talk a little about that.
I'm sorry, who? You talking about the
Aaron who?
My guy. I'm backing Jordan Love all the way, right? All the way. We're going from Favre to Rodgers to Love. We're running it back 45 years of Hall of Fame play at the quarterback position. See, unlike the Bears, the Packers are not a poverty franchise.
It's starting early.
Am I going to have to deal with this week after week?
Yes, evidently. I'm so glad I'm in the AFC. I ain't got to worry about this.
We got to find a Dolphins fan or something.
We'll get to the Patriots soon, okay? We'll get there. Don't worry. Yeah.
A couple down years, no big deal. We'll be back another 20,
So I'm going to pull up. I looked up on Spot Track today some of the recent transactions. Like we talked about Cole Kmet. And we talked about Aaron Rodgers restructuring his deal, something he would never do as a Packer. He just took the most money possible his entire time. We got some tackles, got re-signed. Andrew Thomas, who I'd like to talk about him a little bit because honestly, when he was drafted, I liked him. He was fine, but I didn't expect him to do and be as solid as he's been for the New York Giants and that franchise. He's really locked down that left tackle for them. Do you guys have any thoughts on Andrew Thomas, what you maybe thought of him in the draft or what you thought of him this year, perhaps? He got a 5-year deal worth $117.5 million, according to Spotrac.com, which is, I mean, left tackles are going to cost,
And I think a lot with those contracts for offensive linemen, though, too. Any contracts in the NFL is on the surface level, 5 years, $117 million. But what does that contract really look like when you break down and see, okay, this much is guaranteed, this much isn't guaranteed? what was it? 2 years ago, Taysom Hill signed a 3-year, $90 million contract or something like that. And
But only
really
10 of something was guaranteed.
it was something crazy. Yeah, it wasn't really that. It was just the Saints manipulating the cap. For Andrew Thomas, I'm pretty sure his rookie year, he wasn't all that impressive. So a lot of people after that year one were saying, hey, this guy's a bust. And he's put it together the last few years and probably helped Daniel Jones get paid too. You know, protecting that left side and that blind side and everything. And yeah, we'll see. Don't want to get started on Daniel Jones already, but you know, we'll see if they paid the right runner in that backfield between Daniel Jones.
I think it's perfect for them. It's not that much money compared to you're confident that this guy is going to help protect who you just paid, the quarterback. So, I mean, it's a good signing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It was a good sign. They lock up a young left tackle that, I mean, those guys just, let's be honest, they're not going to find him on the open market. So they had to lock up their guy, and they did so. Sticking with the Giants, Saquon Barkley and the other running backs had a Zoom meeting this last week and kind of talked about the downfall of the running back position overall, which Saquon followed up with signing a 1-year deal worth $11 up to $13 million. So he essentially got franchise tagged, it seems like, because that was around what he was going to get for that anyway. And Kyle, you touched on paying the correct runner in that backfield. In my honest opinion, I don't think they did, but I mean, Giants are going to giant, I guess.
And here's the case with that though too is it costs less to franchise tag Saquon Barkley than it would have to franchise tag Daniel Jones. To talk about that Zoom meeting, they got out of that, and Saquon Barkley, you know, probably hyped up. Yeah, we need to take more money. My man folded, right? He folded as soon as that Zoom meeting was over. Signed a 1-year contract, a little bit more than what he would have gotten with that franchise tag. But I would be surprised if the Jets are out of contention this year, early in the season, which they could be. The Giants. Thank you. I would not be surprised to see Saquon Barkley traded to another team so they can get some sort of asset out of him. I read something that said they were reaching out per Saquon's request. They were trying to trade him before the draft anyway. But we'll see.
I don't. To me, so it's not 13. It's still just 11 mil. So he got the $2 mil signing bonus, but that's still part of that 11 mil. And the franchise tag was 10.1. So to get an extra 900,000, I don't know if you all seen the incentives, and I don't have them in front of me, but last year was probably his best year. And all of the incentives, including the entire team making the playoffs, are greater than any of his best years. So he's going to have a record year for him in order to get any of these 909,000 worth of incentives.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not sure.
Kyle brings up a good point, and possibly a trade chip. I can't remember who I was listening to the other day. They were breaking down like the first 6 games of the Giants, and there's a possibility they could be like 1-5 in those games.
Same for the Jets too, by the way.
Yeah. And but I lost my train of thought. But if they do go 1-5, I could see them. Oh, geez, Jeff Moore with some shade in the chat. But if they do go 1-5 and they look to trade him, I mean, it just shows you kind of, and I think we should talk about this, the way the running back position, like when I was growing up, and as a Bears fan, you know, Walter Payton was our GOAT. We didn't have a quarterback like you, Kyle, and you, Corey. You both have great quarterbacks in your history. We had Walter in defense, and after that, it was Matt Forte. We always have running backs, it seems like. And it used to be a big position going high in the draft as far as back in the day. And now, I mean, Bijan Robinson went high, but other than that, it's kind of fallen off. And you see guys like Dalvin Cook and Zeke and Kareem Hunt just sitting at home waiting on a phone call. It's it's kind of crazy what's happened to the running back position, and NFL overall. I guess the entire game has changed. Would you agree?
Well, all the stats suggest that you don't need to pay a running back, and nobody's going to convince me, even though the numbers are there. You can't tell me that when Christian McCaffrey went to the San Francisco 49ers that they did not get immediately better. And they were a good team, but that was a significant trade.
Yeah.
And to have well, go ahead.
CMC is great, but that offense out there Kyle Shanahan runs, it's my favorite offense in the entire league. I mean, they could probably put me at quarterback and produce, which is insane. I mean, when you see Brock Purdy, who was Mr. Irrelevant, put up the numbers he did in it, and I'm not taking anything away from CMC. He's great. He's an all-around back. But that offense is – and
they're good.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to be on the topic of the 49ers, though, you can't tell me that 2021 Deebo Samuel was not the same as 2022 Christian McCaffrey. You got to remember, at the end of the 2021 season, Deebo Samuel was lining up at running back. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, both of them have been paid. But if Christian McCaffrey were to hit the open market today, or if he were to be on one of these teams, say the Giants, and he's going through a contract dispute, how much does Deebo Samuel get paid versus how much does Christian McCaffrey get paid, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm still just – to me, a CMC or a Saquon or even a Dalvin Cook still, he's only 27. Those are just different people than Gainwell or Boston Scott or somebody like that. They're just different. And I think $15 million is not crazy compared to what was Daniel Jones, 45 or 43 a year or something.
Yeah, so I don't know. Locked him up for 4 years, which is
it was around 35, 40, I think, a year.
But I'm just saying, based on the value versus, I don't know.
But it's just really how teams are built these days. I mean, the Chiefs just won the Super Bowl with a 7th-round running back, Isaiah Pacheco, who put up, I think, top 10 numbers. If I'm just spouting it all off the top of my head, so that shows teams, hey, I can. If I'm spending on my quarterback, if I have my quarterback, I'm going to spend on him. And I can draft a 6th, 7th, 5th round running back that can be serviceable. I'm not going to have a Derrick Henry, but I can have an Isaiah Pacheco. I can find that guy.
That's fine. That's fine. But, like, we just talked about the left tackle being signed for the Giants. And can you name any receivers on their team besides Wan'Dale Robinson? I mean, really? Like, they just got Darren Waller for tight end, but, like, for the most part, they have a bunch of just random receivers. So it sounds like if you're talking about how the team's built, go ahead.
Kyle, are you behind?
I think we're
I
losing.
see your lips moving, but I can't hear a word you're saying.
I mean, he's distraught about this.
They don't just have a lot of random receivers. They have a lot of slot receivers.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
I would imagine the Giants are going to run 3 slot wide receivers this year. They just signed Cole Beasley, Sterling Shepard.
I heard what you said after you said it, which is this is really throwing me off. I don't know who's behind.
You need to yell at the producers.
I'm going to get into the chat here. Jeff Moore says, can we agree Nick Chubb is the best running back in the NFL? I don't agree. I like who Seaflow talked about earlier, CMC. He's probably my favorite running back in the league. Do it all, can run the ball, can catch the ball out of the backfield, can block for you, can I mean, I guess Nick Chubb does all that too, but I think CMC does it at a higher level, in my opinion. I guess injuries are a concern going back to his time in Carolina, but
I mean, in my opinion, as far as Nick Chubb, as far as like just what the running backs we were talking about, Nick Chubb is the best. I mean, he is. he can always explode for 10 to 12 yards. So if you're talking about just a general running back for what we were saying it is, and overall just strength and brute, plus that O-line is insane, I would think pound for pound he's the best anyway.
Okay, Kyle, do you think you're caught up now, or
It's that Ohio internet.
that's what I'm going to say.
I mean, I can hear you guys. It probably is. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. I just feel like there's a huge delay. If you could try and I'm going to remove you for a second, put you backstage. You can try and leave the studio and come back in. We'll talk a little bit about someone else in the chat had something I wanted to talk about. Does Dalvin Cook leaving hurt the Vikings offense? We'll talk about that a little bit, and hopefully when you get back in, you can give your opinion on that.
Unlike the first episode, baby.
Yeah, getting through these pre-show, these first episode jitters.
So yeah, go ahead. You go first on this.
I mean, as an NFC North fan, Dalvin Cook leaving the Vikings, I think it really does. It hurts them a lot. I mean, they have Alexander Madison, who's been fine, but he hasn't been the guy. He's been the 1A running back for the Vikings, and him taking over that number one spot those are big shoes to fill. Dalvin does, like we talked about, everything for you. Like we talked about with these bell cow running backs that just seem to be a thing of the past, other than the Colts are trying to run it back with Jonathan Taylor. But other than that, a lot of teams are going away from that. And Corey, your team, the Patriots, have a lot to do with that. They started this running back by committee. No one's a big name. No one's better than somebody else.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about it for a little bit. Do you think, I mean, obviously it works. Look at the titles,
yeah. I mean, yes. So yeah, we just find people in there that just make it work. And I think that's part of the system. That's Belichick, and now Bill O'Brien's back. I'm super jacked about that. But as far as the Vikings go, the only bad thing, so Dalvin Cook was hurt quite a bit.
Yeah.
And when Alexander Madison filled in, he was great. He was absolutely great. So the only issue is going to be, I don't think Alexander – I do think Alexander will produce as much, if not more, because we've seen that in the time that he's had. The difference is where it hurts the Vikings is they don't have an Alexander to back up Alexander like he was backing up Dalvin Cook. So that is the only way it hurts. I don't know what their backfield room looks like. Running back room, I have no clue. But, I mean, Alexander, given the chance, as long as he can stay healthy, because he's had a couple minor issues with some injuries. If he can stay healthy, I think he can do better, if not – or do as good, if not better.
Yeah. So you think Madison is one of those guys that you might be able to grab later rounds in your fantasy draft? I mean, I don't know I haven't looked into it, but I don't know what the stock is of him. I would assume it's way up with Dalvin Cook being out of the way.
His current ADP is 60, I think 61. And in most of my leagues that I play keeper, I have him, and I think I had Tony Pollard in a couple leagues too. But that's the reason why I kept him on my team the entire time, was hoping that this was going to happen eventually. And even when Dalvin Cook was hurt last year, that was right in your bye weeks, and Alexander Madison filling in was perfect. So I get him in one league. I get him in the 12th round this year. So
well, it seems to me the Vikings are really they're going to put all their eggs in the Kirk Cousins basket. I mean, you got the best receiver in the league in Justin Jefferson. They went out and drafted a wide receiver in the first round this year.
Jordan Addison, who's fast in a car. Let's see if he can be fast on the field.
Well, he was pretty quick in college, but the big question mark with him was I think he's like $170 soaking wet. So we'll have to see if he can take the hits of an NFL season. And I mean, as a Bears fan, I just don't trust Kirk Cousins. He's primetime Kirk. We've heard it. the Vikings this year had I think it was an NFL record, 11 games they won were one possession games.
Yeah.
And you just got to feel like that pendulum's going to swing back this year when they lose guys like Zadarius Smith on their defensive line and Danielle Hunter, who's possibly on the trading block, and putting everything on Kirk Cousins' plate. I think the Vikings are in for a down year, if I'm completely honest.
I think we forget about TJ Hawkinson having a full off season with this team too. You get Jordan Addison. I think they kind of shift more to more passing. We know Kirk can throw up some numbers, so now he's got darts on the sides. He's got TJ Hawkinson. We've seen Alexander Mattison catch. So I think they'll be middle of the pack, and I think that it'll just be kind of a different offense, just be more passing than running.
Yeah, it's going to have to be. And I mean, like I said earlier, the 11 games, one possession, that's just
pretty wild.
And Kyle's backstage again. Let's see if he's caught up. So, Kyle, we've been talking about Dalvin Cook leaving the Vikings and how this affects their offense overall. Do you think it'll hurt them, or do you think Madison's ready to step in and be that guy? We talked about Kirk Cousins and their defense and a ton of things, but I'd like your input, especially as an NFC North fan, a fellow NFC North fan. We're playing these guys twice a year and going to battle against the Vikings. Do you think Dalvin Cook leaving them is going to affect their offense a ton?
Firstly, let me make sure you guys can hear me, can see me, everything okay. Let me know I'm good.
Yeah, you're good, man.
Good, perfect. Yeah, I mean, we've seen Alexander Mattison run in that backfield with Dalvin Cook getting hurt the past few years as well. He's shown that he can kind of shoulder a load. I don't know what that looks like with him as the RB1 in that Minnesota backfield. Everybody talks, Justin Jefferson, wide receiver 1. What can Jordan Addison do? Don't forget that last year we saw shades of what KJ Osborne can do for that offense too. So, what does KJ Osborne look like in that offense? Look at how TJ Hawkinson played for the Vikings last year as well. He was able to immediately upgrade that tight end room with Irv Smith not being able to really come back from as much as he probably wanted to from that injury that he had. You may not need that running game in a passing world in the NFL. When it comes to December, January, that kind of stuff, will Alexander Mattison be able to show up and carry that load? Or, do we see the Minnesota Vikings make a trade late in the season for Saquon Barkley? Do we see them go after a running back like Derrick Henry? What does that look like? So Alexander Mattison, not necessarily the RB1 for Minnesota all the way through the season. Trade deadlines, it's pretty long. So we still got a lot of time to see what that looks like in Minnesota too.
Yeah, and we were trying to spitball and trying to recall who else is in their backfield. I don't recall them drafting anyone or
they drafted running back in the 7th round. They did get a guy in the 7th round, and then they also have Kene Nwangu. And he more of a speedster, special teams guy, was their kick returner, punt returner, stuff like that. But Alexander Mattison, I think he's the clear cut RB1 in Minnesota, unless there's somebody else that emerges. I mean, we can see it. We saw James Robinson 2 or 3 years ago come out of nowhere for the Jags. We saw Isaiah Pacheco this past year for the Chiefs. I mean, guys appear out of nowhere and then they disappear. I mean, Corey's a Patriots fan. He watched Jonah Gray have 4 touchdowns in a single game, and then not play after that. So it's not a running back world in the NFL anymore.
Makes me sad.
Revolving door.
I'm just sad. Like, I don't know. I like running backs.
Well, they're taking that money and spreading it to. Go ahead,
Jonas Gray. Jonas Gray.
Well, I was proud of you for the first name you pulled out from the Vikings bench. All right. But
I play in some deep leagues.
You gotta
and
draft
running backs
those,
are
yeah.
hard to come by. Yeah, you gotta get these guys who are undrafted and they're the 7th running back in some of these leagues, or else you're not set for the future.
yeah. Well, it just seems like that money's going to quarterbacks, wide receivers are getting paid, corners are getting paid. That's where all that running back money's going to these days. There's just a different way of team building until you see, and the NFL's reactive for the most part. You see as I said, the pendulum swinging one way to the other. I mean, who knows what could be next? Could be the big tight end league. Everyone trying to find that Travis Kelce, which they don't grow on trees. So,
by the way, that 7th round running back from the Vikings, his name is Dwayne McBride. He was drafted out of UAB in the 7th round.
Nice.
So, I mean, could be worth a flyer in some deep fantasy leagues because, like I said, you see these running backs come out of nowhere. And really it's happening more often than not because their draft stock is falling. Some of these running backs who would 10 years ago be drafted in the 2nd, 3rd round are falling to the 4th and 5th. I mean, how many quarterbacks just got drafted in this past year? Sean Clifford, the Packers took Sean Clifford way sooner than they really should have. A lot of people thought he was going to be undrafted. And it's changing.
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, Damon Gotze. I'm assuming I'm saying that correctly.
Yes.
Says Vikings are winning it all. Plus 3,500 free money.
He's a Vikings fan.
Okay, well,
Poverty
Vikings fan,
franchise.
you are more than welcome to come to our YouTube, the Daily Football Roundup, and subscribe and like this video. Tell your friends about it, or you can continue to tell us how you feel on Facebook. So we have a lot of NFC North in here. You got a Bears fan, a Packers fan, a Vikings fan, and on my Bears show, there's a Lions fan that loves to come in our chat all the time. So maybe he'll show up at some point if he catches wind of me.
Actually, don't mind that plus 3,500. I mean, why not?
I mean, they did lose the Giants in the first round of playoffs this last year. So, prime time Kirk, that's the reason why.
There you go.
Hopefully
just
they
a
get a
little
lot of
plug for
prime
the
time
Vikings
games this year.
too. A little plug for the Vikings. 0-4 in the Super Bowl. Not as bad as the Bills. 0-4, losing all 4 years in a row. They're the only 2 teams to be 0-4 in the Super Bowl. So
yikes.
Wow. Well, that's a nice little. You have to remember that timestamp there, so you can pull that and put it on your
100%,
TikTok. There,
100%.
I mean, you wonder why Vikings are purple. If you've been choking for that many years, you'd be purple too.
Damn.
As I speak of a Bears fan,
what's crazy too is I think I seen the stat the other day that the Vikings over the past 20 years are like 3rd or 4th in wins or something, and like to not be able to go far. Well, I mean, it's pretty wild. I mean, they've kind of sort of been semi-consistent for a long time and just not done anything with it.
Yeah, I mean, they had a lot of heartbreak. A lot of those field goals just going wide left, I think it was, or wide right.
Yeah, Bears fans know about field goals going certain places.
I mean, they've also
just try and bounce it around on the freaking goalpost.
The Vikings have also caused a lot of heartbreak, though, too, with Miracle in Minneapolis, and also Kyle Rudolph catching that touchdown pass in the corner of the end zone too. So they're heartbreakers just as much as they're heartbroken.
Sure.
I would say it's karma probably for the Vikings. 1 year they heartbreak, the next year they're heartbroken. But
so Jordan Love, huh?
45 years of consistent Hall of Fame quarterback play. Jordan Love will spend the next 15 years as a starting quarterback for the Packers, and we'll get another Super Bowl. But just one, because Packers quarterbacks.
Yeah, you only get one. You
only get one. You'll win 2 or 3 MVPs, but only 1 Super Bowl.
Can't be greedy now, can we, Corey?
No. Yeah. I'll see. I believe when I see it. Well, all right, speaking of that real quick, I know I'm going off on a tangent. Jordan Love, you see, was it the owner or not the owner, because everybody owns the Packers. The GM or somebody come out and said that we're going to take like a half a year to determine if Jordan Love is our quarterback. How do you not know that already coming into week 1? Like either he is or he ain't at this point. Like he's been in your system, what, 4 years now? You know what you got in your locker room, I think. But
I don't know if you really truly do know what you have, right? And I think one of the things with quarterbacks in the NFL, and I'll use Geno Smith as an example. These guys that start from day one, they fizzle out. When you get a quarterback, look at Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes' first year, he sat the whole time. He was a first-round pick, sat behind Alex Smith, and then they shipped Alex Smith out, and then Patrick Mahomes took over the league. Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers sat behind their starting quarterback for 3 years, taking over. Now, I'm not saying Jordan Love is the next Patrick Mahomes because I don't think that he is, but there's shades. There's shades of good quarterback play that he showed last year in 2022 versus in 2020 when he was forced to start against the Chiefs during the pandemic year.
Yeah.
Rodgers wasn't able to play due to protocols and everything like that. But you look at some of these quarterbacks, Josh Rosen, right? What would have happened with Rosen had he not been forced as the day one starter in Arizona? How would Matt Leinart have progressed in Arizona as well, since we're talking Arizona quarterbacks? But you look at some of these guys and they are just forced. And it's because these GMs, these head coaches don't have time to say, hey, let me get my quarterback. Let me develop him. Let me have a year. They have to, hey, we're 0-4, 1-4. I need the rookie to play. We got to sell some tickets. We got to get fans excited.
Sometimes your general manager goes out and pays Mike Glennon a stupid amount of money and drafts Mitch Trubisky over Mahomes and Watson, and he's the best you got, even as bad as he is, and they just have to throw him out there.
Well, the other thing too is we've seen, speaking of money going around everywhere, you got 4 years with this quarterback. So why waste one? In theory, just go ahead and throw him out to the Wolves. If it doesn't work, there's going to be 5 more next year that you can draft. That's just saving money at this point. Like, I really do believe the Eagles didn't have to pay Jalen Hurts yet. Like, they could have waited a little bit. I just think that's
the way Eagles fans are, they would have burned that city down.
Fair enough. I mean, they still boo Jalen Hurts, so that's a thing.
But do you wait to pay Jalen Hurts before, and let Justin Herbert get his contract and Joe Burrow get his contract and Patrick Mahomes get a second contract and Lamar Jackson sign his contract? Or do you get ahead of the curve? Do you get ahead of that and say, hey, we're going to pay you before you become even more expensive? So sometimes it's, hey, we think we have it in this guy. Let's pay him.
Yeah, but Jalen Hurts can always come back 2 years later and say, I'm not paid what I'm worth. Like, what's the guard in Dallas? Zach
Martin.
Yeah, Zach Martin. Yeah. He's like, I'm not paid what I'm worth, and I'm gonna sit out until I do get paid what I'm worth, I guess. Damon, man, he's giving us all kinds of stuff here. He's sticking with running backs. He says, what do you guys think of what's Jacobs doing this year? Josh Jacobs, the Las Vegas Raiders running back. Honestly, it's the Raiders, man. I don't think it matters what he does. You got Jimmy Garoppolo, a lame duck quarterback. You've got Jacobs is really good. He's a solid running back who does everything you need him to do. I just don't see them going, especially in that division where you've got the Chargers, the Chiefs. We'll see what the Broncos do this year if Russell Wilson can find some of that Seattle magic and look decent again. But I don't know if it really matters, guys. He's just he may not play. Is he one of the guys who's saying I'm not going to play if I don't get paid? I mean,
I think he's going to put. So last year was his contract year. He had the most yards from scrimmage of anybody. So this now is his contract year. He might sit around for a little bit. I think he's going to play. I don't think he sits out at all. But the Raiders being the Raiders, as long as he doesn't get married and then have his coach tell everybody about it, I think he'll be fine. I think that he can do. I see one of him like being. They signed the franchise tag like right before week 1, and then they give him a deal by like week 4 because you're allowed to make deals once you've signed the actual franchise tag. Or they could tag him. I think you can tag people as many times as you want, right? I think
it's 2 years.
You can't make
Okay.
you can't make a deal. The deadline for long-term deals for franchise tag players passed, whether they've signed the tag or not, I believe. And then you can tag a player for up to 2 years. But Josh Jacobs doesn't owe the Raiders anything. Let's remember, they put themselves in this position by denying his 5th-year option. They denied his 5th-year option, and he came out and he put the league on notice. And he led the league in rushing, and he closed multiple games for the Raiders last year. And then the Raiders, like Aaron said, being the Raiders, they backed themselves into a corner with Jimmy Garoppolo, and it's you trade for Devontae Adams to pair him with Derek Carr, and then Derek Carr's gone the next year. He's been the quarterback for you for the past 10 years, and he's done a pretty good job. And you move on for a guy who plays 6-7 games a year, maybe. I hope they have a good backup or a good insurance policy, or maybe they're just projecting to pick in the top 5 and moving on from Jimmy G. But you don't have a lot of years with Devontae Adams, and if you can't lock down a long-term deal with Josh Jacobs, where's he go next? So
Right.
the Raiders
have a history of this. They wouldn't even have Jacobs if they would have paid Khalil Mack instead of trading him to the Bears. They got the draft pick. They drafted Jacobs, and that's really all they got out of that, because the other guys that they drafted they were John Gruden's guys, and I can't tell you where they're at now. Other than Jacobs.
They don't have any. Was Jacobs the number 1 our first round pick?
Yeah.
He's the only one in 10 years that's still on the team. None of them. I don't think any of them signed a second contract with the Raiders.
I'm pretty sure Max Crosby and Farrell, Colleen Farrell, I believe is how you pronounce his name, were drafted in the same year, and Crosby was a later round pick. I know that.
I think he was 4th round. I remember Cleveland Farrell because as a Kentucky fan, I was like, they could use edge. Josh Allen was sitting there, and they went with Cleveland Farrell instead, and the rest is history. I don't know if he's playing anymore or if he's out there being a journeyman defensive end for somebody. It's just it'd be tough to be a Raiders fan unless you were like back when John Madden was the coach. You just became a fan and held on. That's a tough franchise to get behind, and you're known throughout the world of being not stand-up citizens to the
I know a couple Raiders fans, and it's worse than a couple Lions fans that I know, because at least the Lions knew they just and then now they're on the rise, but
you can't tell them shit now.
I know, right? But like Raiders, they have so much potential, and then they just shit the bed, or it's tough. But at least they're in Vegas now.
Let's back up real quick, because Corey touched on the Lions, right? So touched on the Lions, and they're opening the season against the Chiefs. The NFL had the chance to open the season with the Chiefs and the Eagles, and normally
or the Bengals.
First game of the season, or the Bengals. Normally, that first game of the season is supposed to be 2 really great teams from the previous year. Did the Lions stand a chance against the Chiefs? Thursday night football, 43 days away from today.
I think they do.
Please elaborate.
I think they're talented. I think the Chiefs will win, but whatever the spread's going to be and whatever the over's going to be, I'm taking both of those. With because I think the Lions will keep up. And where is it? I'm sorry. Is it at Arrowhead?
It's in Kansas City. Yeah.
Okay. I think they'll keep it close. And if they win, it wouldn't be the complete shocker of the year for me.
I think
just me.
I think Kansas City blows them out on opening game. I think the Lions, and maybe I'm a biased Bears fan, but they didn't have a good defense last year, and they reached in the draft for a running back at 12 and a linebacker who I like a lot. Don't get me wrong, I love that linebacker, but I didn't like him at 18 overall or wherever they picked him at. The guy out of Iowa, who's I think Campbell is his name, but they just and I know we had news this week about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson going down with a non-contact injury.
Yeah, that's huge.
I haven't heard any follow up of saying how bad it is or how good it is. I've heard that they think it's not serious, but I mean, when you've already got a struggling secondary on a young team, and that was supposed to be your cornerstone of your defense. Well, I guess you've still got Aiden Hutchinson, who I like a lot, but I don't think they got the pieces on defense to even who's covering Kelsey, and if you double team Kelsey, I guess Kadarius Toney if he's healthy.
If he's healthy, that's the key.
But Mahomes just makes something out of nothing. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster was nothing until he went out there last year, and all of a sudden he's catching these deep balls. He's wide open for some reason, and
I'd be willing to. No, he's not on my team. I'd be willing to make a wager on this Lions Chiefs game because I think it's gonna be a lot closer than everybody thinks it's gonna be.
Well, when the season does start, we're going to do what's called the 12-ounce curl route 6-pack challenge, where each week we will pick 6 games, and we'll keep a tally. And then at the end of the season, maybe we'll get together, and whoever loses is buying beers. I mean, that sounds like a plan to me.
I like it. I like it.
Good segue, by the way.
Right. Getting back to the Chiefs, like Corey said, Kadarius Toney, rubber bands for tendons in his knees. You've got Marquez Valdez still. You've got a bunch of guys who really haven't made a big name for themselves in the NFL. Justin Ross from Clemson, I believe, undrafted free agent in 2021 to the Chiefs, missed all of the year on IR. Again, we're not talking about a game. We're talking about practice. It's not even practice. It's the beginning of training camp. But Justin Ross, from what I had seen, was running with the ones with the Chiefs in practice.
Wow.
Now he had a really good, supposed to be a first round pick coming out of Clemson,
Right.
and then went undrafted. But if he can put it back together, Patrick Mahomes has the talent to, like Aaron said, Aaron could be 1,000-yard receiver with the Chiefs, with Patrick Mahomes. But it's remember the days of Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. Julian Edelman was a punt returner for the Dolphins, and then came over and became a Hall of Fame level wide receiver for the Patriots. Danny Amendola, Wes Welker. Look at some of the guys that played for the Colts too. Pierre Garçon, some of those other receivers for the Colts, as well as some of the times these Hall of Fame level quarterbacks can bring that talent up around them too.
Yeah. I mean, you see it in Green Bay, or you did see it in Green Bay with, I mean, they had big names, but were they that great, or did Favre and Rodgers make them that great? And I always thought it was ironic this year that Aaron Rodgers leaves the Packers because he says they don't give him weapons, and then he says, go sign said weapons over here in New York. I mean, we'll see how it plays out, but but you've my point is you've seen him raise the level of those. As a Kentucky fan, Randall Cobb, what did he do outside of his time in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, Dallas was tough. What was Devontae Adams? Was he third round out of Fresno State?
It's the second round. The Packers strike gold with second round wide receivers.
Fair enough.
Greg Jennings, Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams, second round receivers. James Jones, I believe, was a third. But you see Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, Randall Cobb, James Jones, all left Green Bay. When James Jones came back, he led the league. He at least led the team. I think he led the league in touchdowns the year he came back to Green Bay. He does elevate those players, and they don't go on to do big things with the teams they go to. Greg Jennings in Minnesota was flat. Jordy Nelson in Las Vegas, Oakland at the time, was not the Jordy Nelson we saw in Green Bay. Devontae Adams played tremendous last year with
Derek Carr, though. I mean,
but he had his college quarterback.
Yeah,
he was playing with somebody he's played with before. So how does he play with Jimmy G now? It's that chemistry on and off the field really, really says a lot. And getting back to Aaron Rodgers, watching him interact with the Jets team, the way that he's interacting, he didn't interact with Green Bay that way. Or at least if he did, it was not blown up in the media the way it's been blown up. He's hanging out with Sauce Gardner. He's spending time with his receivers. He's showing up to minicamp. He didn't do that in Green Bay.
He didn't even know there was an offseason.
Weapons, and he probably didn't even know the first name of the guy he was throwing the ball to.
Yeah.
He's spending that time with the Jets because I think he knows, like, this is it for me. I've got 2 to maybe 3 years left in the NFL, and I've got a team that is built to win, and I believe the Jets are built to win in the next 2 to 3 years with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback.
You got the top 3 or 4 defense in the league too.
You've got top 3 or 4 defense. If Breece Hall can come back and be that running back he was last year, he's going to be a tremendous runner, especially with Aaron Rodgers under center. There's a real chance for the Jets. If they can get the chemistry together this year, there's a chance for them to go far. I don't want to say win the Super Bowl because it's only happened twice in history that a quarterback has won the Super Bowl with a team in his first year, and they were both within the past 3 years. You had Matt Stafford with the Rams, you had Tom Brady with the Bucs. Before that, that never happened.
Peyton Manning? Or no, they lost the first year, huh?
Peyton Manning didn't win his first year. No rookie quarterback has ever won the Super Bowl either. So, history 2 years in a row, a first-year quarterback coming in has won the Super Bowl with that team, not first year in the NFL. Yeah. Does that, do we see 3 out of 4 years that Aaron Rodgers does the same thing with the Jets?
For the record, I think we'll get into this eventually when we get closer to the season. I don't think the Jets win that division. I think they get a wild card, and which everybody gets a wild card now, it seems like. But I don't think they win that division, but I do think they can make some damage in the playoffs. If healthy, of course.
I mean, that defense is just nasty, dude. They won, 7, 8, 9 games with Zach Wilson playing quarterback, which I'm glad they took him instead of Justin Fields. I know Justin's 5-20 or whatever. That keeps getting thrown out, but I love Justin in the draft, and I still love Justin on my team. I'm a huge Justin Fields fan, in case you couldn't guess. And I don't say that about all my quarterbacks. I don't just blindly say that as a Bears fan. I said earlier, I didn't like Trubisky. I didn't want him in the draft. I wanted Watson. I mean, he had the college track record. Mahomes was a 50-50 boomer bust. If you actually watched him in college, we didn't expect him to do what he's done to this league. But Trubisky was inexperienced and didn't do anything to impress me at UNC. I was shocked that we drafted him, honestly.
To be fair, your best quarterback has been Jay Cutler. So, I like Justin Fields.
Yes.
Statistically, yes. But, I like Fields. He is by far the best quarterback your franchise has ever had. And go ahead.
Look at the way the NFL is turning to.
Exactly.
They're going to that RPO style of play. You don't have a 1,000-yard rusher at quarterback very often, and Justin Fields did that last year.
So 3 times.
If I'm a Bears fan, I hope that the Bears show light of being good, but I don't hope that they win very much, because not only do you have your first-round pick for this year, but you also have that first-round pick from the Panthers with that trade for the number 1 pick. Let's be real. The Panthers, I don't think, are really going to compete this year. They have a chance to in that weak NFC South division.
They might win the division, I think.
But there's a chance. Yeah. There's a chance the Bears could have 2 top 10 picks going into next year, and they don't need a quarterback. So what do? Oh, hey, let's trade back and get some more draft capital and continue to build this young team and put these pieces around our quarterback, who the Bears are more than likely going to pay. I envision them paying Justin Fields.
Well, this is year 3 with Fields, so it's becoming time to make that decision. Whether we pay him long term or whether we let him test free agents. I mean, you get 2, I guess 3. You get third year, 4th year, and 5th year option.
They could keep Justin Fields for 7 years. You have the 5th year option you could pick up, and then you could tag him twice. Now, that's going to come with a battle and everything like that, but I don't think it gets to that in Chicago. The sooner they sign Justin Fields, before he starts throwing the ball to Darnell Mooney, DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, Cole Kmet, Robert Tonyan, and Russian. I don't know if he'll get another 1,000 yards, but you're going to pay the man in Chicago or somebody else is going to.
Yeah.
Unless he just has a bad year, I think he's your guy for the foreseeable future. No questions
Oh,
asked. I think the Bears pay him, like you were saying, Kyle, as soon as they can. I don't know what your cap situation looks like right now, but like
the highest in the league. Well, it was. I mean, we'll have to see after the commit.
The Bears are flush with money. Granted, they handed out some pretty big contracts in free agency, but there wasn't a bunch of huge names in free agency either. They also have that same draft capital. Nick Bosa's holding out in San Francisco right now. What if the 49ers can't pay everybody? They can't. I don't know where they're getting all their money from, but they can't pay everybody.
Yeah.
Who says the Bears won't turn around and give 2 first-round picks for Nick Bosa? I don't think it'll happen. I think Nick Bosa and the Niners will figure it out. But I also didn't think that the Bears would have traded away, or I didn't think the Raiders would have traded away Khalil Mack. I didn't think the Raiders would have traded away Amari Cooper. I didn't think the Chiefs would have traded away Tyreek Hill. I didn't think the Packers would have traded Devontae Adams. But we're in a league now to where I'm not going to pay you if I can get somebody to replace you at a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
Yeah. And get 5 draft picks.
And get a bunch of capital out of it too. And just get a bunch of dartboard throws. You know? These GMs love their draft picks. And we're seeing it more and more. The Packers had, I think, 15 draft picks this past year.
Jesus.
They've got a young team. And they went into the draft with 12 or 13 and then traded back to get more. You got a young team. You want to get that draft capital. These players coming into the league on their first contracts are cheap. Once you start paying people, it gets messy, it gets difficult, and you got to make some difficult choices.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. I'm trying to think of if there's anything that we really missed.
I want to go back real quick. There was a message a while back about Jonathan Taylor and what we think he's going to do this year. I'll go first as the running back fan apparently of this podcast. I think that Jonathan Taylor back healthy, he's a bell cow. I think with Anthony Richardson in there, that's going to work well together. Their O-line is pretty decent, and their defense is okay. In that division, I know the Tennessee Titans just got DeAndre Hopkins. The Jaguars. Either they're going to Duval or they're going to Jaguar, one of the two. I think that's a wide open division, and if he can stay healthy, man, he's just as good as anybody. And he's fast.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want you to say you're the only running back fan on the podcast. Sorry, I've got something in my throat. If you want to take it, Kyle, for a second.
Yeah, I'm the only running back fan on the podcast. Yeah.
Not the only running back fan. I love me some Aaron Jones. Love me some AJ Dillon. Love the Packers running backs. When I play fantasy football, my motto is draft the stud running backs early because there's not very many of them left. Jonathan Taylor, I think the Colts missed their window. The Colts had a stellar defense. The Colts had a stellar offensive line, and they wasted it with Matt Ryan and Carson Wentz and Jacoby Brissett. And they didn't get a quarterback in there to get them over that hump. Now they've got Shaq Leonard, who was the leader of their defense. He's getting older. You got Quentin Nelson getting older. You've lost a lot of guys on that offensive line, and they're losing pieces. And now they're back in that rebuilding mode. You know, they've got a new franchise quarterback. We'll see, and it's just, you know, the Colts have missed the market quarterback since Andrew Luck retired.
Yeah, that's true. I am a big fan of Jonathan Taylor. He did have a down year last year, but I mean, I think Kyle touched on it perfectly. Those core pieces on their team are starting to age, and I don't know if I would say aging well. I mean, and Anthony Richardson, I'm not a fan. I'm a Kentucky fan. I'm going to be biased. I thought Will Levis was better than Anthony Richardson. He went down to the swamp and beat him. Anthony Richardson had 1 touchdown in that game. Unfortunately, it was to our corner, so that was a loss for the Florida Gators, but they saw him go to the combine and jump really high and run really fast. And oh my God, he can throw the ball to the top of the stadium. Like, it does not, I don't think it's going to work for him. I mean, you got Quentin Nelson on your offensive line, but he's a guard. Who's your bookend tackle that's going to block for him? I liked Alec Pierce, who they drafted last year, but Anthony Richardson is not your pinpoint accurate quarterback. He's the guy who's going to get out in space and try to make something happen. And that can happen in college when you're playing some of these teams who these guys are selling insurance now, let's be honest. But and even in the SEC, you've got guys like that, but it doesn't happen when you've got a defensive end who ran a 4.4 as well, chasing you down. You got Hassan Riddick running you down, or as we mentioned earlier, Khalil Mack, we've mentioned him a few times, or Bosa, Fields was able to do some amazing things with his feet last year, and maybe that led to the Colts making a move like that. Maybe they saw that and said, we can try and replicate that, but it didn't account to wins, and we had the number one pick, so I don't know, man.
Well,
I like Jonathan Taylor, but I don't know if they're heading in the right direction with Anthony Richardson.
Well, with the rookie too part of that, what good is a good O-line if he doesn't know how to? If he's going to Seattle Russell Wilson it, O-line does you nothing. So if he can figure out how to know when to take off versus stay in the pocket versus whatever, he might have a shot. But if he gets scrambled back there, we watched him in SEC defenses. You could argue some SEC defenses are better than NFL defenses, but we watched him get scared a lot. So this is the big times now. I mean, we'll know real fast, quick, in a hurry, I think, on him because he is going to start. So,
yeah, it does help that he's in that division. And I did hear today that Gardner Minshew is getting the starting reps, but it's only a matter of time. Let's be honest.
Yeah. And the way that the NFL, like I said, with quarterbacks is changing is it forced Anthony Richardson up the board. If we weren't in this RPO style, I want a quarterback who can pass and throw type of offense, Anthony Richardson wouldn't be a first round pick. No. And it really it pushed him up. And Corey, to your point of some of these SEC defenses are better than NFL defenses, the Philadelphia Eagles have an SEC defense. It's called the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah. The Georgia Eagles.
Every year they're drafting Georgia Bulldogs, and it worked for them last year. So let's see if it continues.
Well, when they keep getting those extra picks the past 2 years and being good at the same time, why not take the couple flyers on the couple, quote, iffy guys or whatever that might have some things, Jalen Carter and stuff like that. Take the gamble. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
I don't think it's a quote with Jalen Carter. I think he was iffy. He struggled through his possession. He struggled through his position drills at his pro day. We saw what happened off the field. And
that's what I was more or less talking about off the field, but yeah.
Yeah, but I think that was the perfect spot for him to land. A lot of Bears fans were upset we didn't draft him, but you can't just plug him in. Corey, me and you are season ticket holders at Kentucky. Did you go to the Georgia game last year?
Yep.
What did Jalen Carter do?
I don't remember.
Exactly. If you're drafting a number of this is your guy, I should see Aaron Donald out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but Jalen Carter was the extra guy. He was the extra guy from the extra pick they got from I can't remember what the pick was, but that's the flyer.
Right.
The Eagles, the way they were looking at that, they were pretending they didn't have that because that was a pick from something else.
I think it was the Saints trade the year before. Eagles traded 2 first-round picks and got the Saints 2023, I believe, and a pick that year. So,
but when the Eagles got good fast, so at that point when you're almost you played for the Super Bowl or whatever, you can take these flyers, letting with your extra pick, letting that person that's going to slide. If it doesn't work out, no harm, no foul. So only a few teams had that luxury.
And he went to, again, the perfect spot. He's got a bunch of Georgia Bulldogs down there up there with him now, I guess. And I think they'll try to keep him in line somewhat. He won't be racing down the Philadelphia streets. One more thing before we get out of here. I don't know how we've gone this long without talking about it. Justin Herbert got freaking paid. He got a 5-year deal worth $262.5 million to continue playing for the Los Angeles Chargers. What do you guys feel like he deserved it, and what does this mean for, as we mentioned earlier, we kind of touched on it, a Joe Burrow, Mahomes again, all these other, has Josh Allen got paid? So what does this mean for quarterbacks going forward? Are we going to continue to see this number raise, or man, I don't know. Kyle, I'll let you touch on it first, and then I've got some thoughts on this. It's insane, to be honest.
Yeah, as long as the cap continues to go up, quarterbacks are going to continue to get paid. When the Chargers hire Jim Harbaugh from Michigan next year, he's going to love having his QB1 in Justin Herbert. But I think it's the same thing is I don't know if you can compare a contract for Justin Herbert and a contract for Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's shown up. Joe Burrow's produced. Joe Burrow's been to a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Justin Herbert hasn't. I mean, yeah, he's got great numbers, and I believe he was Offensive Rookie of the Year his rookie year and everything. But you've got Keenan Allen. You have Mike Williams, who for whatever reason the Chargers decided to pay. Now you have Quentin Johnston too. If Herbert, he's been paid. If Herbert can't put this team together and get this offense right with Austin Eckler and get them to the playoffs to make a deep run, was it the right move?
So my thing with paying Justin Herbert versus Daniel Jones, Justin Herbert deserves that amount of money versus what I think Daniel Jones got paid. It's a race, like we were saying earlier. It's a race to see who can get paid at the lowest amount, so you've already got your guy locked in. I have way more faith that Herbert can be a franchise quarterback until he retires for the Chargers than I do like a Daniel Jones. Arguably a Lamar Jackson. I know Lamar Jackson's good, but I don't see him. Like, I would rather have Justin Herbert, in my opinion. So, yes, he still has to prove some stuff. It would help if you have two great receivers. It would help if they were on the field at the same time, that they never are.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
No. We lost him again, I think.
It's saying, as Chargers fans are probably used to,
I'm seeing your lips moving, but I'm not hearing you.
I feel like that was
Chargers.
good, but I
Am I
couldn't
gone?
hear you. I hear you now. Oh no.
He's gonna pop out. So I mean, my biggest concern is, where does this end? If each quarterback is gonna set the new market. Like, I realize the salary cap goes up every year, but at some point, man, I feel like these owners are gonna have to almost overcorrect the amount that they're paying the quarterbacks, and maybe put money into defense to stop the quarterbacks, or put money into, let's see if these receivers will elevate your quarterback, something like that, and try and go the young route. I just
my thing is real, like Daniel Jones I can't remember. So let's just say $45 million. Saquon Barkley is worth more than
Right.
Daniel Jones is. So it's never going to stop, to answer your question. It's just who's going to be up top. And the Deshaun Watson contract did really mess up a lot of things. But it's going to happen. It's just going to happen. It's going to keep going up until somebody finally says no. And that's not going to happen. At some point, all the people that don't believe that the running back should get paid, that is going to flip. It's just going to. Because I'm just going to go back to the Giants. Saquon Barkley is a better value at $11 million than Daniel Jones is at 45 or whatever. I think Herbert and Burrow are actually worth that. And for anybody that thought that Patrick Mahomes, the 10-year half a bill, was going to be, that's just going to be the contract, is insane. That was going to get redone. It's going to get redone every 4 years, probably.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah. They borrow from the bank of Mahomes each year
yeah.
when they need
I mean, that was awesome when it happened, but like realistically, I mean, he'll be the first one at 70 mil. I mean, he just will. Like,
yeah. I mean, that's. I mean, we're looking at like starting pitcher money now with the
right?
MLB, and it's just getting insane. But the salary cap continues to go up, so they'll continue to go up with it. Was there any training camp news or extensions that we didn't touch on that you thought we should touch on before we get out of here for the night?
Not particularly. I think most of it was kind of boilerplate. Unfortunately, we have to, death taxes and training camp injuries. Hopefully, we get like a light year this year. I don't know. That's the part that sucks the most. I think there'll be a few more deals done, especially with the running backs, one way or the other. I don't know. It's just I'm giddy. The Hall of Fame game's August 3rd, so I'm super excited.
Yeah. I couldn't even tell you who's in the Hall of Fame game this year. I know it's not the Bears.
Jets and Browns? Jets for sure.
Well, I mean, it's not like we'll see Rodgers out there. We're going to see.
I was right. Jets and Browns. Sweet.
Yeah, look at that. But Kyle, are you ready for me to add you back in? I see you backstage here.
Got to get that Ohio internet better, man.
Are we all caught up now? You want to say something?
I'm not really sure. You tell me if you can hear me again.
Yep, we're good, buddy.
I hear you, but I still feel like it's a bit of a delay. We are a little past our time. In the future, we are going to try and keep this to an hour. But today we went a little long. We had a little bit more of an intro. We had some technical issues that we'll try to work through as we go along. I mean, we're still new to this, but I had a hell of a time talking ball with you guys. If you guys could go to our YouTube page, or if you see this on Twitter or Facebook, like and subscribe, tell your friends about it. Just a couple of guys talking ball, man. And we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next week, same time, 9:00 Eastern time. If you subscribe, YouTube will tell you when we go live, and then you don't even have to think about it. It'll just it'll pop up on your phone. But we're gonna get out of here, and we'll see you guys next week.